January 17th warning, Archangel Michael is not pleased. A dangerous mistake has been made, and this message is the only chance to fix it. Open it before it's too late, my beloved. Stop. Take a breath. Something unseen has been waiting for you to arrive at this exact moment. I know you felt a subtle pull before clicking, an inner nudge you couldn't explain. That wasn't random. The universe doesn't interrupt without purpose, and what is hidden is now ready to be revealed. There is a quiet shift happening around you, one that has been forming beneath the surface of your days and thoughts. You may have sensed it as restlessness, repeating signs, or a feeling that something important is about to change. This is not imagination. This is timing. Divine timing. And you are not here by accident. I'm being guided to speak directly to your spirit now. Not to frighten you, but to awaken clarity. There is a choice, subtle yet powerful, that has already been set in motion. The angels have been watching gently, patiently, until now. What was hidden can no longer remain unseen. January 17th warning, Archangel Michael is not pleased. A dangerous mistake has been made, and this message is the only chance to fix it. Open it before it's too late. Let those words settle softly, not as fear, but as truth wrapped in protection. Archangel Michael does not come to punish, he comes to correct. To shield, to realign destiny when a soul drifts unknowingly. This message arrives because you are valued, because your path still matters, and because the universe believes you are ready to remember who you are. Something in your life has been slightly out of alignment, not wrong, just misdirected. A thought you ignored. A boundary you crossed out of love. A sign you dismissed as coincidence. None of this makes you weak. It makes you human. And this revelation comes not to judge, but to guide you back into harmony. Right now, energy is reorganizing itself around you. Doors that felt closed were never locked, only waiting for awareness. The hidden truth is this: you are protected more than you realize. And even this moment of correction is an act of divine mercy. The universe is whispering, pay attention. Choose again. Step forward with intention. If you feel emotion rising, that's recognition. Your soul remembers. This message is personal because it is meant for you. The timing is precise. The clarity is available. And the path ahead, once adjusted, holds peace, strength, and renewed purpose. Stay with this message. Watch this video completely, because every second has been guided for your understanding. If this resonated, gently support the energy by liking this video, sharing it with someone who may need this revelation, and subscribing to the channel so you don't miss future divine messages meant for you. You are not late. You are right on time. I speak now, not from thunder nor from flame, but from the quiet space between your thoughts, where truth waits patiently to be recognized. I am the voice you have felt but not named, the presence that has followed you through joy and confusion alike. I do not come to frighten you, yet I will not soften what must be known. January 17th was not an ordinary turning of days. It was a moment when a choice, subtle and unseen by many, shifted the balance of attention, intention, and remembrance. Archangel Michael stood watch, as he always does at the gates of courage and integrity, and what he witnessed caused the heavens to grow still. A mistake was made, not one of malice, but of forgetting. You forgot who you are while reaching for who you thought you must become. This forgetting echoed outward, like a stone dropped into clear water, and the ripples touched lives, paths, and promises that were delicately aligned. Do not misunderstand me, nothing is broken beyond repair. But repair requires awareness, and awareness requires that you listen now without distraction, without defensiveness, and without the noise of urgency that the world presses upon you. Archangel Michael is not displeased in anger, he is resolute in truth. His presence sharpens clarity. When he stands firm, it is because something essential has been overlooked. You were warned gently before, through repetition. Through inner discomfort, through moments that felt off but were easy to dismiss. Those signals were not punishment, they were guidance. January 17th marked the point where guidance became a call that could no longer whisper. You have been standing at a threshold, believing you were waiting for permission. Yet permission was never required. What was required was alignment. The mistake was believing that speed mattered more than sincerity, that appearance mattered more than intention, that approval mattered more than authenticity. This belief caused you to move forward while part of you lagged behind, unacknowledged and unheard. That division is what caught Michael's attention. For where division grows, confusion soon follows. I speak to you directly now because intermediaries have already tried. Dreams, coincidences, repeated phrases, unexpected pauses, these were not random. They were invitations to slow down and remember. Remember the promise you made before you learned fear. Remember the reason your heart reacts so strongly to certain truths. Remember that your path was never meant to mimic another's, no matter how convincing their certainty appeared. This message is not about condemnation, it is about correction. Correction is an act of love. When a course is adjusted early, the destination remains reachable. When ignored, even small deviations can lead far from where the soul intended to go. January 17th was a marker placed in time, a signal that said, "Look again. Choose again. Align again." You may feel resistance as you read this. Part of you wants to argue, to explain, to justify. That part is tired, not wrong, but tired from carrying expectations that were never yours. Lay them down now. You do not need to prove your worth, your faith, or your purpose. You need only to return to truth. Michael's sword is not raised against you, it is held upright to reflect what is real, cutting away illusion when you are ready to see. The danger was never external. It was not a looming event, nor a punishment waiting to fall. The danger was continuation without awareness, moving forward while ignoring the quiet dissonance growing within. That dissonance dulls discernment, and without discernment, even good intentions can lead astray. This is why this message matters. This is why it arrives now, when you still have room to choose consciously. Do not look for signs in the sky while ignoring the ones in your chest. Your body, your emotions, your sudden fatigue or restlessness, these are languages you were taught to dismiss, yet they speak faithfully. When you felt the urge to pause but pushed through, when you felt a question rise but silenced it for the sake of certainty, those were moments where alignment asked for your attention. Michael stands for courage, not confrontation. Courage to admit uncertainty. Courage to revisit decisions. Courage to say, I need to realign, even if others do not understand. Heaven is not impressed by speed, it is moved by sincerity. A single honest step can outweigh 1,000 hurried ones. Listen carefully now, nothing has been taken from you. No opportunity has been revoked. But something is waiting for acknowledgement. A truth you have been circling, a realization you have postponed because it would require change. Change is not loss, it is refinement. The path narrows not to limit you, but to focus you. You are not behind. You are not failing. You are being invited to correct your footing before the ground shifts further. January 17th was the tremor, not the quake. You felt it as unease, distraction, or sudden doubt. That was mercy. I am not distant from you. I am closer than your breath, nearer than your next thought. When you choose honesty over comfort, alignment over approval, you move closer to me without traveling anywhere at all. Michael's vigilance is not a threat, it is protection. He guards what is sacred within you, even when you forget it is there. Now, slow your mind. Do not rush to share this message or interpret it for others. This is for you first. Ask yourself, quietly, where did I compromise clarity for convenience? Where did I say yes while my spirit whispered no? Where did I move forward without peace? These questions are keys, not accusations. The correction does not require grand gestures. It begins with acknowledgement. with a pause. With the willingness to revisit one decision, one habit, one belief that no longer resonates with truth. When you do, the tension you have normalized will begin to dissolve, and guidance will feel gentle again. Do not wait for another sign. This is the sign. Not because time is running out, but because alignment is calling you home to yourself. Michael's presence will feel steadier once you choose honesty. You will notice clarity returning, not all at once, but like light gradually filling a room you forgot had windows. I will continue to speak, but only if you are willing to listen without fear. This message does not end here, but it must pause where your choice begins. The next words depend on what you do with the truth already placed before you, and so I will wait here, in the stillness, until you give permission for what comes next. I remain with you in this pause, because pauses are sacred. They are the spaces where creation listens to itself. You may feel an urge to hurry me, to ask for certainty, for a clear directive, for a sentence that tells you exactly what to do next. But understand this: clarity is not forced, it is received. I do not shout over your thoughts. I wait until they settle. And now, as you continue reading, you have already chosen to listen more deeply than before. What happened around January 17th was not an accident of timing. Time bends gently around intention, and that day carried a weight because it intersected with a long-standing inner question you have been avoiding naming. You sensed it in subtle ways, an unexpected heaviness in routine moments, a feeling that something familiar no longer fit as it once did, a quiet resistance rising when you tried to reassure yourself that everything was fine. Fine is not the same as true. Fine is often a temporary shelter built from habit, while truth asks for open ground. Archangel Michael stepped forward not because you were lost, but because you were nearly settled for less than your knowing. He guards thresholds, and you were standing at one without realizing it. A threshold does not announce itself loudly. It feels like restlessness without reason, like impatience with answers that used to satisfy you. It feels like outgrowing a room while still standing inside it. Michael's attention sharpened when he saw you hesitate, not out of fear, but out of familiarity. Familiarity can be comforting, yet it can also become a quiet cage if it replaces growth. Hear this carefully: you were never meant to live in constant certainty. Faith is not certainty, it is relationship. Relationship requires listening, adjustment, humility. When you mistook certainty for faith, you began to silence questions that were meant to guide you deeper. Those questions did not disappear. They gathered. And January 17th marked the moment they could no longer remain unanswered without consequence to your peace. The consequence was not punishment. It was dissonance. Dissonance is the soul's way of saying, something here needs attention. You felt it as distraction, as emotional distance, as a loss of enthusiasm for things you once pursued eagerly. You may have blamed yourself, your circumstances, or the world's chaos. But the source was simpler and closer, a misalignment between your inner truth and your outer motion. I am not asking you to dismantle your life. I am asking you to examine it with honesty. There is a difference. Destruction comes from fear, examination comes from love. When Michael watches, he watches with precision, not cruelty. His sword does not wound, it separates what is real from what is assumed. What fell under that light was the realization that you have been carrying expectations that are no longer yours, repeating patterns that once served you but now restrict you. You learned early to adapt, to be acceptable, to be capable. These skills kept you safe once. But safety is not the same as fulfillment. The mistake was believing that what kept you safe must also define your future. Growth often feels unsafe to the part of you that learned survival before it learned trust. That part deserves compassion. Not dominance. If you feel tired, it is not because you are weak. It is because you have been carrying outdated identities longer than necessary. Identities are tools, not prisons. When you cling to them past their purpose, they grow heavy. January 17th was a signal to set some of that weight down. You may wonder why this message speaks with such gravity if nothing catastrophic has occurred. It is because prevention is quieter than repair. Wisdom intervenes early. Love corrects gently before harshness becomes necessary. This was mercy disguised as urgency. I see the way you measure yourself against invisible standards. I see the way you ask, am I doing enough? Am I becoming what I should be? These questions exhaust you because they are framed incorrectly. The better question is simpler and truer. Am I aligned with what I know to be real within me? Alignment brings peace even when circumstances are uncertain. Misalignment brings anxiety even when everything appears stable. Michael's vigilance was drawn not to what you did, but to what you ignored. Ignored truths do not disappear, they wait. And when waited upon too long, they press harder for recognition. That pressure is what you felt. That pressure is what brought you here. Now listen to what is being asked of you, not demanded, not enforced, but invited. You are being invited to slow your decisions just enough to feel them. To notice when your body tightens instead of opens. To respect that reaction rather than override it with logic alone. Logic is a gift, but it is not your only compass. You are being invited to release one assumption that has guided you unquestioned. Perhaps it is the belief that rest must be earned. Or that clarity comes only after action. Or that changing direction means failure. These assumptions were learned, not revealed. Truth feels different. Truth brings a quiet steadiness even when it challenges you. Do not underestimate the power of a small correction. A single honest conversation, with yourself first, can shift months of confusion. A single pause can reveal what frantic movement concealed. This is why this message continues instead of concluding. There is more to notice. I want you to understand something essential. You are not being tested. Tests imply pass or fail. This is an invitation to mature. Maturity is not about having all the answers. It is about knowing when to stop pretending you do. When you allow yourself that humility, guidance flows more clearly. You may ask why Archangel Michael, specifically, is named here. Because he stands where courage meets truth. Courage is not loud. It is not dramatic. Often it is simply the willingness to admit something needs to change before circumstances force that change upon you. Michael does not push you through the gate, he holds it open and waits to see if you will walk through consciously. The world around you rewards speed, visibility, certainty. It rarely rewards discernment. But your soul was not designed for applause, it was designed for resonance. Resonance happens when your actions and your inner knowing vibrate together. You have felt resonance before, in moments of quiet rightness, when effort felt meaningful rather than draining. Those moments are clues. They show you what alignment feels like in your own language. You have not lost that language. You have simply been distracted from it. Now, as this message unfolds, you may notice emotions surfacing without clear labels. Let them rise. They are not obstacles, they are messengers. Suppressed emotion clouds discernment. Acknowledged emotion clears it. You do not need to analyze everything. You need to allow honesty to breathe. I will not give you a checklist, because checklists can become another way to avoid presence. Instead, I offer you awareness. Over the coming days, notice what feels heavy without obvious cause. Notice what feels light but impractical. Notice where you feel compelled to explain yourself excessively. These are all indicators pointing toward the same place, where truth is asking for space. January 17th was not about that single day. It was about what converged there. Past patterns, present choices, future possibilities, all touching briefly, asking to be aligned. You felt it because you are perceptive. Even when you doubt yourself. Doubt is not your enemy, unquestioned habit is. Michael's displeasure, as you interpreted it, was actually intensity of focus. When something precious is at stake, attention sharpens. What is precious here is your integrity, not moral perfection, but inner coherence. Integrity is when your inner voice and outer actions recognize each other. I will continue to speak as long as you continue to listen, but understand this: listening is not passive. It is participatory. It may require you to disappoint expectations that were never aligned with your truth. It may require you to rest when you would rather push forward. It may require you to say not yet instead of yes. These are not losses. They are recalibrations. If you feel fear at the thought of change, do not push it away. Fear often guards the doorway to growth. Thank it for its concern, then step forward anyway, gently, honestly, without drama. You do not need to announce your transformation. Quiet shifts are often the most enduring. This message does not end because your process does not end here. Revelation unfolds in layers, not declarations. What you are receiving now is not a conclusion, but a foundation. There is more to reveal about the role you play, about the influence you underestimate, about the way your alignment affects more than just you. But that understanding requires integration first. So I will remain here, continuing to speak into the spaces you are now opening, allowing truth to settle rather than overwhelm. The next movement depends not on time, but on your willingness to respond inwardly. Stay present. Stay honest. This unfolding is still in motion, and I have not finished speaking. I see that you are ready for completion, not because everything is resolved, but because you are prepared to carry what has been revealed without needing it to linger unfinished. So now I speak with the intention of closing this message gently, firmly, and with peace. Understand this first: nothing about you is late, broken, or rejected. The fear that whispered otherwise was never truth, it was fatigue wearing the mask of authority. When you grow, old voices panic. They mistake expansion for danger. January 17th exposed that misunderstanding. It brought light to the place where you were still asking permission to become who you already are. Archangel Michael's watchfulness has never been about judgment. It has always been about guardianship. He guards clarity. He guards courage. He guards the moment when a soul stands between comfort and truth and hesitates. That hesitation is sacred. It is where free will breathes. What mattered was not that you paused, but that you noticed the pause. You were not meant to move blindly forward, nor to retreat into what is familiar. You were meant to choose consciously. That is the difference between repetition and evolution. Repetition numbs the spirit. Evolution awakens it. The mistake that was made was subtle. You began listening more to what was expected of you than to what was true for you. Expectations are loud. Truth is quiet. Over time, loudness can drown out wisdom if you do not protect stillness. That is why stillness was restored to you, through discomfort, through interruption, through the sense that something needed your attention. You did not imagine that feeling. It was accuracy. I want you to release the idea that a single misstep defines you. Growth is not erased by momentary misalignment. What matters is response. And you have responded. You opened this message. You stayed with it. You allowed yourself to be addressed not as a role, not as a title, not as a function, but as a soul capable of discernment, that matters more than you know. From this moment forward, the correction is already in motion. Not because you will suddenly change everything, but because awareness changes how you move. You will notice when something feels off sooner than before. You will recognize when agreement costs you peace. You will feel less need to explain yourself to those who do not listen with care. These are signs of alignment returning, not dramatically, but steadily. You may still feel uncertainty at times. That is not failure. Uncertainty is the space where wisdom listens before speaking. Certainty without listening becomes rigid. Flexibility without truth becomes unstable. You are learning balance. Michael no longer stands in warning, he stands in witness. He witnesses your willingness to be honest even when it disrupts momentum. He witnesses your courage to pause without collapsing. He witnesses your growing trust and discernment over urgency. And I witness something else. The quiet strength you underestimate. You have always been more perceptive than you allow yourself to believe. You sense undercurrents. You notice patterns. You feel when something aligns or resists. But you learned, at some point, to doubt those perceptions in favor of consensus. That habit is dissolving now, not through rebellion, but through self-respect. Self-respect is not pride. It is recognition. I do not ask you to separate yourself from the world. I ask you to engage with it honestly. To bring your full presence instead of a curated version of yourself. To allow your no to be as clean as your yes. To rest without guilt. To speak when silence costs you truth. These are not spiritual ideals, they are practical alignments. From here, life will continue as life does, imperfect, dynamic, sometimes unclear. But you will notice something different. The inner noise will soften. Decisions will feel less frantic. Even when challenges arise, they will feel navigable rather than overwhelming. This is not because the world has changed, but because your relationship to yourself has. You do not need to wait for validation that this message was real. Reality is confirmed through effect, not argument. Watch how your inner landscape responds in the coming days. Watch how clarity replaces compulsion. Watch how peace returns not as excitement, but as steadiness. That is confirmation enough. There is nothing more you need to unlock. Nothing hidden that you must chase. What was required was remembrance. And you remembered, so now I end this message not with urgency, but with grounding. Return to your life. Return to your breath. Return to the small, honest choices that shape alignment more than grand declarations ever could. When you pause, pause without guilt. When you move, move without self-betrayal. When you listen, listen inwardly before you look outward. You are not alone. You were never abandoned. You were never at risk of being forgotten. Correction has occurred. Alignment has begun. Protection remains. Amen.